Hello, friends. So we are coming to question 38. This is a question on exchange risk management. So before I start this question, I have one small announcement to make, and it's very important announcement. I have a friend who is teaching F2. Okay, so this is for all those ACCS students who want to study F2. So my friend is teaching F2. He's giving classes on Zoom for F2. Okay, so let me tell you about this guy. Who is my friend. His name is Mohammed Hussain, a Sri Lankan, and he's giving online classes on Zoom. And I will be giving his details, his contact number, his WhatsApp number in my description below. So please go and check in the description below for his WhatsApp number and do contact him for the classes if you want any one-to-one classes. So basically, in his classes, he'll be covering more than 100 questions. He'll be giving one-to-one self-help to everyone whoever needs it, and he's also giving a 20% discount on the price which he's going to charge on that 20% off. So isn't it a great package? I think everyone should go for him because the reason why you have to uh, go for him is because he is someone who is so passionate about teaching. He understands that each child has their own way of learning. Okay, every child is different. He's okay, and also teaching is not just for the sake of teaching. He started, no, he will make sure that a concept is very well understood by the students. If it is not, he will make it understand. He will try his 100%. He will give. He can make a simple thing, he can make it understandable in 100 different ways. So that is a specialty. He's very good in budgeting. He's very good in variance. He knows some techniques which he's going to give you, and I'm sure you are going to get benefit. And his main aim is not just to pass with 50. His aim is for the students to get 100%. 100%, right? He himself scored 70%, but he will make sure that you get 100% because there are some tips and techniques which he knows. He's like, it's his cup of tea. He knows very well what he teaches. He knows very well the subject, is expert in that, and I think one should go for him if you're looking for F2. And also please recommend this to your friends and all who is looking for an F2 teacher, that is management accounting. Okay, his details, his WhatsApp number will be given below. Thank you. And and i'm ho- and also currently he has more than 100 students, so I'm hoping to see more students in his classes. Okay, and then now back to my video for 38, asteroid system. So in this question, what I'm going to cover is, I'm going to cover two things. Main thing is I'm going to cover money market hedging, and then I'm going to see how hedging affects your cost of capital. So these two things we are going to cover. And also we have whether treasury department should act as a profit center or as a cost center, and also some advantages and disadvantages versus money market hedging and some exchange traded derivatives. So these are the four requirements. Now let's go to the case study without wasting any more time. So Asteroid System is a German based company. What company? German based company. It is very, wait, I'm sure it's not, okay, why isn't my pen working? Okay, so it's a German based company. Now it's very important that you know it's a German based company. Why? Because that company decides your company, your currency. What is your home currency and what is the foreign currency? So Asteroid System is someone who is a German based company with a subsidiary in Switzerland. So this is dealing in euros and Swiss franc. Those are the currencies. So the company's treasury manager expects the Swiss business will remit the equivalent of 1.5 million euro in 2 months. Right? Expects the Swiss business will remit the equivalent. That means the Swiss business, with a subsidiary, is going to send 1.5 million worth of euros to Germany. That means it's paying. He has to pay. Remittance means what? Pay. So Swiss company. That means from Switzerland they are paying to the German company. Okay. This is 1.5 million euros, which is in 2 months. Right. So her expectations, her means who? This is from the Switzerland's point of view we are talking, because he is the one who has to make the remittance to the payment, or remittance you can say, to Germany. So basically what's happening here is Germany is receiving, Switzerland is the one who is paying 1.5 million euros. Now you have to convert it to Swiss, right? So her expectations of the future remittances are based upon the current forward rate. So the forward rate has been given to you. The current spot and the forward rate for Swiss franc against euro expected from the Financial Times and are shown below. So this is the first time you must have come across this question, a question like this, where this way is given of giving you forward rate. Because usually what happens is you are given one rate, one forward rate, and you know that exactly you have to pick that rate. Even for the spot rate also you are given, but you have never been given this closing midpoint, change on day. You are just given the bid offer spread, and then you have to select whether bid or offer. Till that we know, but all these, what are this? Days mid, closing midpoint, 1 month, 3 month. Okay, so this table I'm referring to, this is the forward table, and also you can get a spot rate from this table. And this question is not going to be a very straightforward question. It is little twisted it is. Okay, now we'll see what number to use, but not now. First read the whole question. Okay, so in the euro money market, the company can make fixed interest deposits at LIBOR and can borrow at LIBOR plus 20 basis point for terms of greater than 1 month up to 6 months. So for euro, it is okay. We don't know whether they are borrowing or paying, but the rate has been given. So in euro, okay, the company can make fixed interest deposits at, okay, so I'm going to mark what are the important keywords here which I have to mark. Okay, one is euro, okay, and the next one is they are going to make fixed interest deposits at LIBOR. It's very important. So euro is going to make fixed interest deposit, and they are going to borrow at LIBOR plus 20 basis point. The company can borrow at fixed rates in Swiss money market. They can borrow at fixed rates in Swiss money market, right? And the LIBOR rates are given to you for both euro and the Swiss franc, but you have not been given at what rate Swiss is going to deposit. You have only been given that they are going to borrow at fixed rates, and that fixed rate is not given to you. Okay, now you have been given the spot 1 week, 2 week, 1 month, 2 month, 3 month. What to use? Don't know. Just keep it aside. Go to the next one. The main thing about AFM is you should always keep moving ahead. Don't get stuck anywhere. Even if you are not sure what to use at that stage, keep reading, keep reading. You will come to know. Okay. So the company's treasury manager is keen to eliminate transaction risk. What is transaction risk? This type of risk where you are involved in foreign transactions, where you are dealing in foreign currencies, you are always exposed to transaction risk, and this can be eliminated through hedging. So you must be familiar with the three types of risk. What are they? Transaction, translation, and economic risk. Make sure that you know all these three, and this is a type of transaction risk. So they want to eliminate it. Who? The treasurer. However, because it is the job of the treasurer, right, to manage the currency risk and also. However, because of the margin requirements and their impact upon the firm's cash flow, she would prefer not to use exchange traded derivatives. So they, because of margin requirements. What are they referring to? They are referring this to future, because in future you require margin. So they are saying that this is costly. That's why they are going for money market hedging, because money market hedging is not an exchange traded derivatives. Remember that. Now, Swiss franc borrowing or lending rates will need to be negotiated with the bank. Okay. The last paragraph. CEO of Asteroid has heard that a local competitor has made substantial gain from using his treasury department to speculate on foreign exchange markets. Yes, it is true. Treasury department can also be used to gain, okay, through speculation, right? It is not always managing the exchange rate risk, hedging and all. Okay, and it's interested in adding speculation to the role of treasury department. Now let's read the requirements. So requirement A, estimate the lowest acceptable Swiss borrowing or lending rate for a money market hedge maturing in 2 months. So this is about money market hedging in 2 months. Lowest. Swiss borrowing and lending rate. First, in this question, the main question is your part A, because all your tricks and everything is in part A only. Rest all are easy, straightforward. So that's why I'm going to spend more time on part A, because this type of question never appeared. Whenever you are given some exchange traded or money market or options and futures, you know that directly we have to hedge. But here the question is different. It is twisted. It is not the same. Here most of you misunderstood this question, thinking that we have to hedge that 1.5 million euro. We don't have to hedge. The question didn't ask for hedging here. Surprisingly, it is about hedge risk management, but the question itself is not about hedging, right? That's why this question was not performed so well by the candidate. I will show you the marking scheme. I have that as well. We'll show you what are the common mistakes and all at the end of this video. So, Swiss borrowing or lending rate. Now, my thing is, you have to estimate the borrowing and lending rate. We know that in money market hedging, we are given four rates. What are those four rates? The foreign country and the domestic countries lending and the borrowing rate. Together, there will be four rates which are annual. And we know that we have to pick any two rates. One is lending, one is borrowing, right? But we have to decide which country is lending, which country currency is borrowing. But in this case, the thing is for euro, right? Go up. I will show you euro. Go to this para euro. So euro money market has fixed interest deposit at LIBOR and borrow at LIBOR plus 20 basis points. So we know that they deposit and they deposit and they borrow. We know the rates in euro, but in the Swiss market, we already know that it borrows at fixed rates. Nothing about lending. We don't know whether they are borrowing or lending. That will decide later. We have to decide, but we'll decide it later. That's why they have written it. They didn't specifically tell borrowing or lending. You have to tell whether it's borrowing or lending rate. You will get some rate. You have to calculate. You have to tell whether it's borrowing or lending. Okay. And how do we start this question? Part A, we'll come to that. Let's read the other requirements as well. Part B, advantages and disadvantages of money market hedging compared to exchange traded derivatives. So it's about advantages, disadvantages of money market against exchange traded derivatives. Right? This is an easy question that you will be able to do. And when you talk about exchange traded derivatives, make sure that you mention the different types of exchange traded derivatives. What are they? Let me write here. Futures, options. There are so many others also you can write, swaps and all everything. But it's for 6 marks, so make sure that you don't keep on adding and talking about too much. Futures and option is more than enough, right? See your marks and then give points. Whenever you try to, whenever you uh, think of a point or a point comes to your mind, an answer comes to your mind, always try to write it down near your question or near your requirements, so that later if you forget also you can read the notes and write it. Like here for part B, I wrote futures and options. So in case I forget the exchange traded derivatives, by when I come back to this requirement, I know futures and options. I can see from here and I can write it. So always whatever point comes in your mind in the exam, write it somewhere near your question paper or somewhere, right? Because it happens that at the end you think that you will write this point, but you will forget because due to panic and so many other things. You have so many questions, you just don't have one whole question in the exam to focus on. You have plenty of questions to handle. Coming to part C, 4 marks. Discuss the extent to which currency hedging can reduce a firm's cost of capital. So this can reduce a firm's cost of capital, the extent, how much. So when we talk about firm's cost of capital, it's for 4 marks. Remember, cost of capital, it is divided into two things. Cost of equity plus cost of debt makes cost of capital. So we need to mention about both cost of equity, how it affects, and cost of debt. That's why it's 4 marks. 2 marks for cost of equity, 2 marks for cost of debt. And here in part C, if you see, two syllabus areas are linked in one. What is it? Currency hedging comes in syllabus E. That is your advanced risk management techniques. Cost of capital comes in syllabus B, part B, advanced investment appraisal. So I always tell you that try to link. Just because you studied exchange risk management, one part of the syllabus does not mean that it will not be applied into any other syllabus. It will be linked. Study in an integrated way. Don't study in isolation. It will not help you. Because When you're studying currency hedging, you're just studying currency hedging. When you're studying cost of capital, all those net present value, discount rate, WACC, everything, you're studying it separately, right? But the problem comes when an examiner asks this type of question: how hedging can reduce cost of capital. Now coming to part D. Part D, this question itself is a, you can take it from the textbook. The answer is there in your textbook. Copy pasted. Exactly the same points. So I'm not going to go through that. This you can read it by yourself. Both part D, B and D I'm not going to solve in this video because it is easy. It is self-explanatory. You can go through the textbook and understand it, right? So part D, you have to discuss points to consider whether treasury department of this company should operate as a profit or cost center. So that's what you have to talk about. So I'm going to cover part A and part C because it's very important. So now we know that we have to cover the lowest Swiss for part A, lowest acceptable Swiss borrowing or lending rate. We have to get a rate. How do we start with this question? Before I take you to the answer and show you, how do we know what rate to use? From what is our starting point? Your starting point should always be from the information which is given in the paper. Okay, for that, go through up and see. So here you have been given Swiss and the euros borrowing rate and the fixed rate. You are only give, and for the Swiss you don't know. For Swiss you don't know because Swiss they said you are going to borrow at fixed rates, not at LIBOR. These are LIBOR rates. So that means this you cannot use. Let's go up. Okay. Yes, up we can use something. We are only given the forward. So can we use forward first? From forward can we come? Okay. So our starting point should be forward because the only information in this case is forward. So we have to start with forward. Can we find forward rate first? So how do we calculate the forward rate of 2 months? Because see the part A, they have asked maturing in 2 months. So forward rate has been given for 1 month. Okay, it is this and this. It is for this and this. 1 month and the 3 months forward has been given. Right? Of course, this cannot be your spot rate, right? Because 1 month and 3 month. It's not your spot rate, it's your forward rate only. You are given forward rate for 2 different months. How do you find for 2 months? It is simple. When you want to find 2 months, 2 months will be somewhere here. Why my pen is not working? This is so irritating when my pen doesn't work. Okay, so your 2 months falls in between 1 and 3. So what you have to do is add 1 month. Okay, 1 plus 2. Add your 1 plus 3. Add your 1 month and add your 3 months forward rate and divide it by 2. That will be your 2 months spot rate. Sorry, forward rate. And it should be for all the questions whenever you are not given the in between forward rate, right? That's how you have to average it and you have to take it. So that's how they have done it here. This I'm going to go through later, also the marking scheme. For now, just forget about it. So first calculate the 2 month forward rate, money market hedge. Use the subheadings. You have to use subheadings, by the way. Just you cannot start from the calculation part. What are you doing? You have to understand. Here again the question is not about hedging, using money market hedging. It's not about your depositing and then, because to know that depositing and borrowing, first you have to know the rates of both the country. Do we know the Swiss francs rate? We don't know. We have to find that rate. Okay, so this is not about hedging. Don't confuse this with hedging. This is not the normal question like how we get for hedging. Now, so 2 month forward rate is the average of 1 and 3 month. We have got that. And also make sure that it is Swiss franc for euro. This you have to write it. Number is not enough when you're dealing in currency. How is it? We'll see how from the case study. Yes, it is. It is given somewhere. Yes, Swiss franc against the euro. Or this also. Right? So it is the forward rate. So Swiss is the base and this one is the counter. Sorry, euro is the base and Swiss is the counter currency. I'm sorry, I'm going down. Yes, we are here. So now the exposure to transaction risk could be eliminated by entering into a forward contract to purchase Swiss franc at a rate of this one. This is the rate we have calculated above. That is, you would purchase this into this, okay? Because we know that this worth of euros 1.5. If you want to convert it into Swiss franc, it would be 1.5 into 1.6199 because it is in different currencies. 1.6199 is in Swiss franc, 1.5 million is in euros. Different currency, multiply. That's how you get for Swiss franc, and this much you are getting for Swiss franc. Now the question comes is, how do you know that you purchase Swiss franc? It could be sell also. This you have to decide first of all, by the way. Forward contract when you're entering, right? Whether it's forward, whether it's future, whether it's option, you have to know you're purchasing or selling the currency. Why are you purchasing Swiss franc? Tell me that. This you have to know. Okay, the reason why you are selling Swiss franc is, okay, first you have to understand the case. Sorry, buying Swiss franc, right? You are buying. What was the case? The case is they are remitting. Swiss is remitting to German. So that means this is keep it Germany. This is will keep Switzerland. Okay, Swiss business will remit to whom? Germany. So that means Swiss is paying. Okay, paying. Swiss is the one who is remitting. Remitting means paying, right? Germany is receiving remittance. So Swiss is paying, Germany is receiving. Swiss is the one who is paying. Okay. So when Swiss pays, he will be paying what? He will be paying in Swiss franc, right? Therefore, he needs to buy Swiss franc. He needs to buy Swiss franc. He has to pay. When you're making a payment, you have to buy that currency, right? You have to pay. See, you cannot tell you have to pay in euros because it is already 1.5 million euros given to you. You just have to take it in Swiss, how much you are going to pay in Swiss. So you have to buy Swiss. That's why Swiss you are buying, because you have to make the payment, the Switzerland. So that's why you're buying Swiss franc. Okay, and converting it into the euro has been given 1.5 million euro, converting it to Swiss. Now, next part. Okay, this is your first part. Okay, let me mark it as number 1. Number 2, what is your number 2 stage after you get forward interest? Number 2 stage is your interest rate parity. Why it is number 2? How do you know? How do you just jump to interest rate parity? Right? Just because this answer it is the interest rate parity, I will also use interest rate parity when it comes to my exam. Can you do it? If you are not given any information about interest of the countries, can you use interest rate parity? You at least need the interest rate of one country and the forward rate and the spot rate for you to predict the interest rate of another country. Otherwise, you cannot use interest rate parity. The reason why you have to use interest rate parity is, read the question again. Part A I'm talking about. Estimate the lowest acceptable Swiss borrowing or lending rate. Basically, this means nothing but the interest rate only. Right? This means nothing but the interest rate. Okay, and now why interest rate parity? The reason why interest rate parity is because we have just calculated what? Forward. So from forward, we can calculate the interest rate. Through what? Interest rate parity. That's why just knowing the formula is not enough. When to use the formula at the correct time is very important. Here is your test. This is your test in AFM. And this is why most of the students fail, not because they don't know what is interest rate parity or they don't know the formula. They very well know the formula, memorized it also several times. But when the time comes for them to use it, they don't use it because they don't know how to use it or they don't know that when to use it. So you should always be exposed to questions like this when you are practicing. This will tell you how much you are using your knowledge. Sometimes it is not always obvious. It does not look does not look always obvious that I'm using, interest rate parity in this type of question does not look very much obvious, because it is about exchange. We are always thinking about options, futures, forward, or hedging, money market. Where does interest rate parity comes from, suddenly? So you should always be exposed to this type of questions for you to get through that shock, that you get shocked when you see interest rate parity in your answer also. So the reason why you're using interest rate parity, because my job here is just not to tell you do this, do that. My job is to tell you why you have to do this and why this is the correct way, and how do you approach from step 1 to step 2. Basically, you might be given 5 steps in the textbook and you can just memorize all 5, but if you don't know the logic behind those 5 steps, how the first step lead to second and second to third, you will never get through AFM. Somewhere you will struggle. Not only in AFM, This same rule applies to your other papers also. If you are very strong in your concept, nothing, no questions can come, and you cannot fail at any cost. That's the main thing, because you know the logic behind it. Even if a tough questions or challenging question comes, somehow you will get through it, because your logic is clear. You are very strong in your concept. You know exactly why you're using what you're using. But if you just memorize without knowing why I'm using interest rate parity, then it's a very big, it's going to be a very tough. Okay, so let's come back to the topic. Let's come back to the question. So interest rate parity because forward rate is given. So first is from here to here, 1 to 2. Okay, now write the formula. Okay, we still don't know whether it's borrowing or lending. That will decide later. Okay, we can decide it itself also in the beginning also, but I just don't want to explain everything at once. I'm slowly building you up there and taking you to that level. Everything, if I try to tell you at once, you will get confused. Okay, you will not be able to remember so much. So let's forget about borrowing or lending. We'll just find the interest rate. Now, when you are writing this, you have to mention, you have to note it, what it means in this case study. Okay, first you are writing the formula. Okay, so F0 is what? Forward rate, calculated above. This one we have already calculated, the spot rate, sorry, the forward rate, spot rate. This 1.6244, how we got it? If we go to the spot rate here, if you see, we haven't got any. Okay, spot rate is clearly not given to you. Okay, they just told correspondent forward rate. Okay, so forward rate we used 1 and 3 month average. Spot rate, how are we going to use? For the spot rate, go to your bid and offer spread, this one. Okay, here, by the way, the spot rate is also not very easy. Usually your spot rate is directly given to you, so it's no work is required from your side. In this question you have to do a little extra work, because you have to work. Okay, after getting that bid offer spread also, you have to work on the spot rate. Okay, I will teach you. It's not a very big thing and it's not tough. So 239 and 244, first you decide bid or offer, which price, 239 or 244 for the spot. Is it 239 and 244? Decide, right? How do you decide? How do you decide? Go back again, rewind yourself. What is the case about? Who is paying to whom? S, Switzerland, is paying to G. Okay. Now, I have always told you this. I'm not going to change. Right? I never change my the way I teach. One thing, I never change it from question to question. The way I teach will always be fixed, irrespective of the question. So I always told you that always see this currency. This one, your base currency. Base currency is what? In this case, it is euro. Check what is happening to the euro. Forget about the Swiss franc. So now you are seeing from the point of Germany, right? Yes, Swiss is paying to Germany. For Swiss, it's a payment, but for Germany, it's a receipt. Germany is receiving. Germany is what? Receiving. Germany is, I'm going to write it here again. Wait. I don't know why. Wait a minute. So, okay, I cannot write it, but okay, so I hope you are able to see. Okay, so here I have written J. Okay, now J is receiving. How much? J is receiving from Switzerland. So J is receiving what? Hmm? J is receiving what? You have to decide. J is receiving euro or buying euro. Okay. So J is going to receive Swiss franc. Okay. J is going to receive Swiss franc. But our thing is, what is he doing with euro? So since he's receiving Swiss franc, he will be J. Okay. He means J. Germany is going to sell Swiss franc. Germany is going to sell the Swiss franc because it's receiving Swiss franc. He is selling, then only he can buy euro. So that means Germany is buying euro. Germany is buying euro means bank is selling euro. So bank is selling at 244. Okay. Or in other words, you are buying euro at 244 because you will always be in the worst situation. Okay, from bank it's okay, they sell, and you will be buying at high price and you are selling at a lower price. Bank is making a profit here, right? So that's why you are buying euro at 244. That means bank is selling to you at 244. So that means the price you are saying is 244. Okay. Now check your closing midpoint. So when you write this price, how will you write it? The spot rate, it will be 1.6244, right? This last three digit you are writing after 1.6. That's what it means. Just look at this three digit and this, only the last three digit are changing. So this is how you are getting the spot rate. This is how you write the price. Because the closing midpoint, how are you getting this closing midpoint? You are just adding, right? 239 plus 244 divide by 2. If you are dividing this by 2, you will get 241.5. They have rounded up, so that's why they are getting 200, and they have rounded up to 242. That's why they are getting 1.6242, right? But you have to take this, not the midpoint. You have to take the offer. So 1.6244, that is your spot rate, right? So this is your spot rate, 1.6244. Here they haven't, they got the spot rate, but this is the way you have to get the spot rate. Know it. Now, interest of what currency is known to you? Germany is known to you. So that means Germany is your country. Okay. In this case, it is the overseas country because your base will always come here. So interest rate in the country overseas, in this case, it is the Switzerland. Of course, Germany. Germany is your home country. So country overseas is Switzerland, and your base is Germany. Now, as we are looking for a 2-month interest rate, we have to multiply this one by 2 over 12. Exactly, in all cases. So here, forward rate is 1.6112, spot rate is this, spot into 1 plus IC because you don't know the Switzerland's interest rate, into 2 over 12 plus this interest rate into, still this interest rate will be multiplied by 2 over 12 because this is also annual interest rate, the interest rate of Germany. How are you getting the, okay, 0.03725 means 3.725%. How are you getting this rate? Go to your LIBOR rate. Okay, here, go to Germany. They told Germany has to borrow and fix, sorry, deposit. So how do you know Germany is borrowing or deposit? This is money market hedging. Okay, by now I can tell you whether it's a borrowing or so, this is borrowing or lending. Okay, this is a money market hedging. What have I told you in money market hedging? By the way, if you haven't watched my videos on money market hedging, you can go to the playlist risk management, advanced risk management lecture, and go there and check money market hedging. Okay, at the end of this video also, the link will be given to you, that video, so you can go there directly. When you go to the end of my video, you can check there and you can go to the money market hedging. So money market hedging, the rule is, this is a foreign currency payment or a foreign currency receipt. Okay, this is a foreign currency receipt we'll take from the Germany's point of view, for Germany, right? Because we first will decide for Germany, then we know what is it for Swiss. Okay, so Germany is receiving, that means Germany is receiving a foreign currency receipt. So when Germany is receiving a foreign currency receipt means you borrow You borrow in foreign currency and invest. You deposit in domestic currency. That means for Germany, borrow in foreign currency. That's a rule. When it's a foreign currency receipt, you borrow in foreign currency. What is the foreign currency for Germany? Switzerland. So Switzerland, they are borrowing. Germany is depositing, investing. So we know that Germany is depositing, investing. So now let's go to the rate. So in euro money market, the company can make a fixed interest deposit, right? We know in the euro they are making an interest deposit at LIBOR. So no need to add 20 basis point because we are not borrowing in euro. We are just depositing in euro. We can just take the LIBOR. So LIBOR for 2 months. LIBOR for 2 months. This one for euro. 3.72538. They have rounded up. That's why they are getting 3.752%. In your case, you can take the whole number. It's better to take the whole number in fact rather than rounding it up, right? So you can take 3.72538%. Okay, they have rounded up to 3 decimal places. So that's how they are getting the 3.752%, and this is annual. You need to multiply this also by 2/12. Now here onwards, whatever the step is, it's your maths. It's not your AFM. How good you are in solving equations. So you just have to find I. Basically, you have to make IC, interest rate in counter currency. Okay, country versus your subject of the equation. So next line, you are taking this to the left because IC is you want to make that as the subject, and then basically you are taking this side, multiplying it, and then this you are dividing it. That's why it's coming down here. Next, that you are getting this answer. Okay, then next you minus by 1 and divide it by 2/12. You are getting 2.04%, or this anything. What does it mean? Now this writing this much is not enough. Now you have know that you are borrowing in Swiss, so it's a borrowing rate, and this is the lowest acceptable rate that we know. One line, this line has to be there. That's why I'm putting star, very important. This line has to be there, conclusion has to be there. Otherwise 1 mark you will lose. So if Asteroid can borrow at less than 2.04% in the Swiss market, money market hedge will be preferable to selling Swiss franc in the forward market. Okay, what does it mean? It means they are preferring money market hedging if this rate is less, it falls more than less 2.04%. That means if they can borrow at less than 2.04%, okay, this is the minimum they will accept. More than this, they will not go for money market hedging. In that case, money market hedging is preferable to forward. That's what it means. Okay, and now let's go to part B. Part B, I'm not going to go through it. Advantages and disadvantages, you must be knowing about options and futures. We have done several questions on this. And then don't forget to give your conclusion also. Okay. Let's go to part C. Part C is a very important question again for 4 marks. Cost of equity, cost of debt. We'll see how cost of equity is getting affected. Has hedging reduces a firm's exposure to foreign currency risk? Okay, there should be favorable impact. That's why it's in bold. Make sure whenever a question comes, what is the impact? The way you have to write impact is like this: positive impact, negative impact, favorable impact, adverse impact. You have to write it. Just don't write it will have an impact. What impact? Will it be negative? Will it be positive? How do we know? Just don't write this will have an effect on this one, or this will have an impact on this one. Write it that it will have a favorable impact or a negative impact. This you have to write it. Okay, so favorable impact, how? On the company's beta value. Cost of equity you're talking about, beta value you have to talk. How beta value? Because what does beta means? Beta means measurement of your risk. How risky is your investment? If lower your beta means lower the risk, right? So if you are hedging, foreign currency exchange risk reduces. That means your risk is reducing, means your beta value also will reduce. And you remember, you know the CAPM formula. Lower the beta, lower the cost of equity, right? So how cost of equity will reduce, and the extent of the impact. Now you have to discuss about the extent of that impact. We have talked about favorable impact, but what is the extent of that? And everything is in bold. Whatever is in bold, you have to write. That means this word has to be there. These are the keywords. This has to be there in your mark answers. So the extent of the impact will depend on the size and the importance of the potential foreign currency exposure and the correlation of the currency with the market. Very important. Need to write. If the currency and the company has the same correlations with the market, then the removal of the currency risk will have little or no impact on the company's cost of capital, as the company's exposure to market risk will not change. What does it mean? It means that if the correlation is same of the currency and the company with the market, even if you hedge, there will be no benefit. There will be no reduction in cost of equity. But if the relation is negative, like if there's a opposite relationship, it's not correlated, then hedging is beneficial. That's what it means in the other line. The reverse would be true for different correlations with the market, and the company's cost of equity would be affected by changes in level of foreign currency risk. Now let's come to cost of debt. Make sure that you write this subheading, cost of debt or cost of equity. Don't just write about cost of capital generally under one thing only. You need to separate it into two different things. But first this has to be there. After this, this is the main heading, currency hedging and cost of capital. Then comes your cost subheading. After that, keep one line again subheading cost of debt. So the reduction in foreign currency risk may have again a favorable impact on the company's exposure to default risk. Debt means default risk you have to talk about. The risk of defaulting on debt payment is closely related to the volatility of the company's cash flow. Right? How much you are going to default on your debt payment? Are you able to pay your debt on time, or are you going to default? It depends on what? Your cash flow. So if your cash flow is very volatile, that risk will be greater of default. That means what is currency risk management doing? Hedging is doing to you. It is reducing that volatility in cash flow. It is making your cash flow more stable, more certain. That means your default risk also will fall down. Therefore, cost of debt also will fall down. That's what it means in this paragraph, right? Great. Okay. Reduction in foreign currency risk will have a smoothing effect on the company's cash flow, which will therefore reduce the risk of defaulting on debt. This should have a downward impact on the cost of debt and hence overall cost of capital. So you see, because of hedging, cost of equity falls, cost of debt also falls, hence cost of capital also will fall. 2 marks each. Now coming to part D, we have to talk about whether the Treasury Department should operate as a profit and a cost center. Exactly copy paste, right? There are some 6 points given to you. I'm not going to go through this in detail. You can just read it by yourself. It is self-explanatory, right? You can memorize the points. Competence of staff depends on competence of staff, the control which you have, the information which is required, attitude to risk. Are you able to take more risk and not? Internal charges, performance evaluation, right? It depends on all these points, right? And it's for 5 marks. Now we are done with this question, so we can go through our this very important. Top tips. At first glance, this appears to be a straightforward foreign currency hedging question, but there's a twist involved. As I told you, this is not a foreign currency risk, but if you see the question for the first time, it looks like that. The money is being remitted to Asteroid rather than the company making a commitment to pay. Right? What does it mean? It means this is not usual payment and receipt. The word remittent has made it a bit confusing, that they are remitting. Right? Therefore, a reverse money market hedge will be needed. In part A, you will have to calculate 2-month rate using average of 1 and 3 month. We have used it for forward, and when using interest rate parity formula for calculating acceptable interest rate, remember you're dealing with reverse money market hedge. That is, the foreign currency is borrowed in overseas market. Right? Foreign currency is borrowed in overseas market means what? What is the foreign currency for Germany? We'll see from the Germany's point of view. The foreign currency is what? Swiss. And Swiss is borrowed where? In the overseas market. In Switzerland, Swiss is borrowed. Usually, what happens in normal payment and receipt, Swiss, it is correct, Swiss will be borrowed, but not in foreign overseas market, in your market. In Germany, they will be borrowing Swiss. But here, Swiss is being borrowed, but in Switzerland, in their country. For Switzerland, right? For Germany, it is a foreign currency and borrowed in overseas market. So this is the difference. Converted at spot rate and then deposited in the domestic market, that is Germany, right? You are also trying to find the overseas country's interest rate, ICA, rather than the forward rate. Okay, So remember, you are trying to calculate a 2-month rate, therefore you will have to adjust the interest rate parity formula accordingly. Okay, that means the interest rate you have to multiply both by 2 over 12. Easy marks. Effect of hedging on cost of capital is one of the easy marks, and also whether treasury department, both part B and D. Now examiner's team comment. This is the most important section which every one of you who attempts this question needs to go through. I personally advise you, please go through this examiner's team comment. You can forget about other things. Don't go through other things, but this thing you have to go. It's a must. Okay. So that there are some mistakes which most of you have done and you don't do it. Okay. So examiner's team comment. This was not a popular question. You see, it's not a popular question. You have never seen a question like this. I bet. And only a minority of candidates who attempted were able to identify money market requirements and the procedure for setting up a hedge of this type. Even though it is straightforward, hedging focused calculation focused attention on identifying the minimum Swiss borrowing rate that would make the hedge worthwhile. So the discovery parts of question ask candidates to discuss relative merits of money market compared with through the exchange traded derivatives, and good answers focused on the good answers focused on range of hedging instruments available and commonly used in this type of business scenario. So what are the used in this business type of scenarios? Futures and options. I always say good answers or a good candidate is the one who can use range of things in their answer, who can bring a variety of points in their answers, in their answer script. Is they are just not limiting to one thing. That shows that you have a breadth of knowledge. You have a very deep knowledge, that you know so many things in that area, right? When they are talking about exchange traded derivatives, that shows, if you're talking about options, if you're talking about futures, that shows how much knowledge you have for that. That will help you to get more and more marks. The more deeper you know about something, the more marks you can acquire, right? If you're studying everything on the surface level, you're not going deep into that, you will not get marks. Hence you might not even pass also, which is a very harsh truth, but this is the truth. You have to know deep. Part C. Question asks candidates to consider whether hedging of this type would impact on the company's cost of capital. Good answers recognize that it is dependent on the significance of currency risk. Is the assessment of firm's exposure to market risk in the case of equity and overall risk in the case of debt. Many candidates ignored this part of the question. Many candidates. Why are they saying this? This could be you and maybe I don't know how many, right? So don't, make sure that you are not in this category. You are not in this group. Your job is, if you are in this category currently, you have to be out from that category and go to that category, the one who attempts all the questions. That should be your goal from today. Common errors in this question. Usually for any other questions, I have never seen where they have discussed about common errors, but this question they included here because this is a tricky question. The first time when someone attempts this question, I bet 95% of you will not be able to attempt it. At least the part A, you may not be able to do it. So common errors in this question, part A, incorrect estimation of the appropriate forward rate. That forward rate is a one tricky area. Second, unable to use the money market hedge in a situation where there's a remittance as opposed to commitment in a foreign currency concerned. This is not a normal payment in a foreign currency receipt. This is a remittance. C. Not recognizing the role of interest rate pattern relationships in determining the minimum acceptable rate of borrowing. Most of you don't know. I've told you. This is not lack of knowledge that you don't know to use interest rate parity. This is your lack of application that you don't know to use interest rate parity in this situation. Part D. Not appreciating the significance of correlation between domestic and counter currency in determining the potential gains from hedging. Okay, now let's go to the marking scheme. So part A, calculation of forward rate. If you see 4 marks, usually this is 1 mark only to use forward rate, but this is here is 4 marks. Make sure that you know how to calculate this little areas. The small areas can have a big impact on your marks. Then comes calculation of minimum rate plus 7 through reverse money market hedge 5. Okay, I don't know what is this 7. Okay, but it is for 5 marks. 5 marks. And conclusion itself is 1 mark. I've told you that online you need to. Now let's go to part B. So part B, 2 marks is for basis risk. We all know that there's a basis risk in your future, right? In your ET derivatives, exchange traded derivatives, not in over the counter. Over the counter, what happens? Over the counter means what? Money market hedging in this question is an over the counter, right? It is exactly to your requirements. It is customized, the amount you want to hedge. So there cannot be any basis risk in OTC, but yes, exchange traded derivatives, it is standard. It comes a standard size like futures. So there will be basis risk, because usually what happens is your futures you take for 3 months, right? Futures you will not get less or more than 3 months. It is fixed for 3 months only. So for 3 months you have to take a future, but your period is only for 2 months. So that 1 month it is basis risk. Next, under or over hedging. Exchange traded derivatives like options and futures, there will be an under and over hedging, but not in money market hedging, because it is over the counter. Exactly the amount you want to hedge, you are using it. But for futures and options, we know that we have to use number of contracts. So that number of contracts, sometimes it is in decimal. That is not exact number. We are using less or little more than that. So that's where there will be an under and over hedging sometimes, which again needs to be hedged in forward. Then comes your counterparty risk. Over the counter and exchange traded derivatives, right? Next, flexibility. Over the counter option is more flexible compared to exchange traded derivatives. It is not according to customers, it is standard. Margin is there in exchange traded derivatives like futures. So you are getting marks for each. Now let's go to part C. Part C is 4 marks. The cost of capital 2 marks. Sorry, cost of equity 2 marks. Cost of debt 2 marks. And finally part D. Profit center, cost center 1 mark per well explained point. So that's it for this question. I hope that you have understood this question now and will be able to tell and teach your friends also who are struggling in this question. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And I have recently, yesterday, I just saw that I have reached over 200 subscribers. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And yes, by the way, I'm recording this video now. What is the time? It is 12:57 a.m. So in 2 hours, your results are coming, all the ACCA students. Best of luck for your results, right? Do share your results with me, so that if you have passed, congratulations. And if you have failed, no need to worry. I'm always there. You can message me all the time and I will be there. And I will guide you. What are the areas you need to work on? What are the things went wrong, right? So take care and best of luck for the results.